2 belts on the line. Most importantly, the lightweight championship of the world on the table. You guys know it's my favorite division. This is such an intriguing matchup. DP, Dustin Poirier, taking on Charles Oliveira, the kingpin of the submission in the mixed martial arts world. I'm so excited for this matchup, plus much more on the card. Let's get into it.
The teller, the teller, the teller.
It's another day. Left jab, right jab. This is MMA. Mixed martial arts, quick body parts, undefeated when I pick 'em. Who the champ, who the victim? Looking in my crystal ball, I predict the winner. Never stop fighting. If you lose, keep your chin up. Know how the game go. I'm a smart fella. Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller, the teller, the teller.
What is up, you guys? UFC 269. We got a hell of a card here to look forward to. Very excited about a couple matchups on this card. Now, unfortunately, the Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal fight did fall apart. So I know you see that here, but we don't have that fight to talk about on today's episode. But there's a lot of other spectacular matchups. Of course, the main event, which we brushed upon here in the intro. We're going to be getting into every single fight on the fight card. You guys know the deal here. Please do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out, guys, so please do that first and foremost. Please do excuse my voice. I know my voice is a little scratchy. We'll see how it goes throughout the show. Over the weekend, I had the pleasure of going to 2 different events here. I went to the Miami Dolphins game yesterday, and I went to the Florida Panthers game Saturday afternoon. I got a couple little clips I put out on my Instagram. You guys can go check those out. MMA Fortune Teller _ that was the Panthers game. A couple little small bets on the games as well. Got some little snippets there in the videos. I was enjoying the game here. Panthers win in a shootout, and then the Dolphins also win. So both my home teams won. I was pretty excited about that. You can see a little action that I put out there. Some small stuff. Just enjoying myself as I'm at these games. But my voice a little scratchy, man, as you saw there at the Panthers game, but really more so at the Dolphins game. I was really getting wild, man, and screaming and stuff. So again, I do apologize if I'm a little scratchy on the mic. Now, we had some action take place this past Saturday, man. I guess we're still calling it UFC Vegas, the Vegas thing, UFC Vegas 44. I thought they stopped that, but it seems the hashtag is still going and all that. So I'll still refer to these cards with the Vegas and then the number after it. Aldo takes on Rob Font. I'm going to cut to the chase here. We had 4 official plays. I ended up going 2 out of the 4. So I hit 1, 2. I lost 2. We're going to get to what those plays were here. And we'll start at the first card and we'll work our way up. Vince Morales takes out Luis Smoka. No action here. And, Vince Morales, I talked about some holes that he has in his game or some things I've seen on tape that I really wasn't that impressed with. That wasn't the case here this past weekend. I was very impressed with the development of his boxing. He's always had that boxing background, but it seems that he's taken it to another level here. Looked a little bit sharper with the hands. Now, Luis Smoka is a guy that's vulnerable to be hit on the feet, so we'll see how Vince looks against a little bit of a step up in competition. But he delivered on Saturday, gets the knockout in the first round. Luis Smoka, always a tough guy, but definitely lacking in the skills department at times. Claudio Puelles gets the knee bar on Chris Grutzmacher. Solid win for Claudio. He's still very young, and this guy is looking like he has a lot of potential behind him. Now, we kick things off here. The first bet that we had on the night was William Knight. It was an underdog play. I felt very good about this play. It was actually the last play that I threw together here to take out Alonzo Menafield. I thought William Knight should have been the slight favorite. I thought that there was potential for him to kind of be a little bit more fresh in the later rounds and try to grind out Menafield if it went there. I also thought there was potential for Knight to clip Menafield. We've seen Menafield get hit with a nasty counter hook by OSP. And at the end of the day, I thought this fight there was some flexibility with how this fight could have went, so I didn't really feel confident in seeing Alonzo Menafield with that minus in front of his line there, being the favorite. I really wasn't feeling it there, so I went in on it. Let's see here. Pull up the bet right up here. I got him at plus 130. It was a 2.5 unit play for me that I put out there. So, you know, brought some units in. And it's always good to hit a dog play on a card, man. I love hitting the dogs there. So William Knight kicks things off there. We'll keep an eye on him moving forward. Cheyenne Vlismis, no longer. Cheyenne Bays, she takes out Mallory Martin. She looked good with the striking. It was a good match. Mallory was really aggressing, but Cheyenne was definitely landing the cleaner shots, putting more volume out there. And then in her post-fight speech, you know, it's none of my business, none of anyone's business, but, you know, she talks about whatever happened with the JP Bay situation as if JP left her or something. But from everything I've heard, I mean, she's the one that walked out on the guy, but I don't really know anything about it. I'm just reciting the comments that you guys put in the comment section. But either way, none of our business, man. But, you know, I'm sure that was a big victory for her. I wonder if JP was watching the fight. I mean, who knows what's going on. I'm excited to see JP step back in there. And obviously, he needs to get a victory in the UFC. He has so much going on in his life. Anyone that's been in a big breakup, you know, it's not easy. So I'm really interested to see how JP actually performs in his next fight. And he actually has a big fight coming up. I'm forgetting. I think they did announce who he's fighting. I think he did announce on his Instagram who he's going to be fighting. We'll have to pull that up. But Brian Barberena takes out Darian Weeks in a very exciting fight. Barberena showing the grit that he brings to the table. Darian Weeks definitely showing some skills as well. This guy is, you know, he has some boxing skills. He has some wrestling skills. I think we'll be seeing more of Weeks for sure. And the UFC will definitely be granting him another fight. You know how they treat guys that come in on short notice like that. Manil Cape takes out Zalgis Zumagulov. I'm starting to open my mind up a little bit to this guy, Manil. I know he's a talented fighter, but the two first fights in the UFC were a little bit questionable for me, not putting out a lot of volume. And you know, he's starting to pick up the aggression. And you know, when he throws, I mean, he throws his strikes with you know, just an absolute killer mentality. He looks to take your head off, and again gets another knockout. He's starting to grow on me, actually, man. As a fighter, I'm starting to like him in the division there. Dusko Todorovic takes out Maki Pitolo. Now, this is a fight, you know, Dusko gets a big win for his career, but, you know, he's a polished fighter in certain aspects of his game. He's polished with his grappling, and there's certain attributes he's good with. But I do not like his striking defense. The head is still there to be tagged, and certain fighters are going to just tee off on him. I guarantee you he gets knocked out in at least one of his next three fights. I'm calling it, especially as he moves through the ranks and fights the best guys in the division. He's going to get teed off on. In the middleweight division, there's guys that will literally decapitate you. I'm sorry, man. Dusko needs to change some things still. I don't see him hanging around too long if he continues to fight with that type of style. Alex Morono takes out Mickey Gall. Morono, once again, just a guy that people just kind of underestimate. He doesn't have that look, but he's just a guy that's extremely tough. He's technical, and he knows what he's doing in there. We saw that beautiful jab drop Mickey Gall in the first round. He takes out Mickey Gall there. Chris Curtis takes out Brendan Allen. I said it, man. Run the tape back. I probably should have picked him. But you know, I wasn't gonna pick against Brendan Allen here. I'm very high on Brendan Allen, but I said it same way I said it against Phil Haas. This guy Curtis is an underrated fighter. He's a nasty striker. This guy has a wealth of experience. He's a dangerous man, and at this point in time, he just became a contender to the division. You take out guys like Phil Haas and Brendan Allen in your first two fights, you could expect some big time fight news coming from Chris Curtis. That was an awesome performance by him, getting the knockout there in the second. Clay Guida takes out Leonardo Santos. This was a tough one for me. This was a solid wager for me here. I took Leonardo Santos, got him at a good line, got him nice and early. I felt that Santos was going to be the significantly more talented fighter here when it came to striking, his jiu-jitsu, all that. But you guys saw what happened. Leonardo Santos almost gets the stoppage. It's a 10-8 round in the first. He completely blows his load, and he was done. You saw it. I knew the fight was over as soon as he didn't finish Guida. I saw that happening right in front of my eyes. I mean, he threw so many strikes out there, man. When you throw that many strikes in a row, and you just put it all out there, and you don't stop your opponent, I mean, his arms were done for. And I knew that he wasn't going to recover in the second and third round. He was so done. And, you know, some people were arguing that the fight should have been stopped. It's kind of hard to argue that when the fighter survives the onslaught and comes back and wins the fight. If the fight should have been stopped, you should have seen Guida messed up to the point that he wasn't able to perform. And that wasn't the case. Guida came right back and did his thing. So I'm not going to be biased here and say, oh, the fight should have been stopped. It could have definitely been stopped. It could have. You heard the commentating team. They all said, oh, the fight easily could have been stopped right after that knee that hit on Guida's forehead. But it wasn't. So, and it's a shame because if we get that win there, it's another profitable night. But it was slightly not a profitable night. As I said, we went 2 for 2. But as far as units go, we did not prevail there. Jamal Hill takes out Jimmy Crute. This was another loss of mine here. So those were the 2 losses I took. I wanted to see Jimmy get this fight down to the mat. I really wanted to see him use his grappling, and I didn't like the way the fight kicked off because I definitely saw that he was falling in love with his striking, which his striking is good as well. He has beautiful leg kicks, but I didn't want to see him entertain Jamal Hill in that fashion. I wanted to see him shooting some takedowns. I didn't even care if he got stuffed, just making it a grueling fight, because that's where Jimmy Crute really, really thrives, when he starts pushing the pace and he's on top of you and he's passing your guard, and that was really the route I wanted to see him take, but he didn't. Now, the last play here, Rafael Fiziev. You know we had to go in on Rafael Fiziev. Big fan of what he brings to the table. I'm very high on him, and that fight was a beautiful fight to watch. Hearing the entire story about how both these guys were coaches, or one of them still is, one of them was, in Brad Riddell, the Muay Thai striker over at Tiger Muay Thai. You know, these guys know each other. They've trained together, and you saw the performance these guys put on their feet. It was just absolutely beautiful. And we cashed a 3-unit play, grabbed it at -120, and a lot of respect for Riddell too. But I love that line. Probably in retrospect should have went a little higher on it, because Fiziev is a guy that you're really going to be seeing some very high lines next to his name in the future. Now Jose Aldo takes out Rob Font. Very, very happy for Jose. I say it time and time again, Jose is my favorite Brazilian fighter of all time, and I shouldn't have turned my back on him here. Probably should have edged him for the pick. I thought it was somewhat of a close fight. You guys heard my prediction. I thought that Rob Font would have kind of wore out. You see my voice giving out on me. Let's see how the rest of this video goes, man. I'm telling you, it's going, man. But I thought that Rob Font would have wore down Jose Aldo in the later rounds. That wasn't the case. And Jose Aldo, he really had a great round. I believe it was the 3rd round or the 4th round where he was able to get that takedown and was able to relax and catch his breath there for an entire round. If that doesn't happen, I think that Aldo is really getting tired, man. In the later rounds, I mean, he already was exhausted in the 5th, but I mean, he might have even been to the brink of exhaustion there. But I mean, I guess I shouldn't go in on him that much. I mean, he looked good, he performed, he's the man, he's the legend, and he was the fighter to pick. So a little bit of regret there, but no action, so it doesn't matter. And Rob Font put on a hell of a performance as well. Let's not forget what Rob Font went out there and did, man. He's a nasty fighter, has a beautiful 1-2, very good boxing, and he'll definitely take a lot of guys out in the near future. So that's gonna wrap up UFC Vegas 44. UFC Fight Night, Rob Font versus Jose Aldo. We go 2 out of 4, 2-2, and we're gonna look to move forward to this upcoming card, this giant fight card, UFC 269, and we're gonna make this one a profitable one. You guys know the deal. We've been stringing off profitable cards one after another. So a little hiccup here, but not even really much of a hiccup. There's no major damage done, and we look to handle business this upcoming weekend. So with no further ado, we're gonna slide forward to UFC 269. Let's turn the page here. Kicking things off in the women's flyweight division, we got Priscila Cachoeira taking on Jillian Robertson. We'll start off by talking about Priscila. Priscila is really a feel-good story. If you guys really remember exactly how things have played out for her, she started off her UFC career 0-3. Her first fight in the UFC is against Valentina Shevchenko. She gets brutally beat down. Eventually, she gets rear naked choked in the second. And that was one of those types of fights where you really kind of feel bad for the opponent. I mean, she got beat down, and she was not ready for that fight. She loses 2 more in a row. Shows to be a tough fighter, though. They call her the zombie girl, and I think there's a good reason for that. She's very durable. And after all that, going through all that, she wins 2 fights in a row. And not only does she win them, she gets finishes in both of them, and shows that she really has some power in her hands. She goes in there, she knocks out Shayna Dobson. She gets a finish against Gina Mazzani. That was a really big one just recently for her. And she's just been so emotional in the cage, and you got to love to see these types of things from the girl. Someone that's faced adversity, faced it head on, and has prevailed now. Wouldn't it be something if she can go in there and win 3 fights in a row after losing 3 fights in a row? The only problem is that Jillian Robertson's in front of her, and she's a very, very talented chick. She's 9-6, but a fighter that you really don't want to judge based off her record. She's been in there with some stiff competition. You look at her losses: Miranda Maverick, Talia Santos, and Macy Barber. I mean, those are all top-notch women in the division. Victories over Poliana Botello and Courtney Casey. Jillian Robertson's strength, without a doubt, is her grappling. She has solid wrestling and great submission skills, great BJJ. She surrounds herself with great coaches and a great team. She's training all over the East Coast of Florida. You see her with Hannah Goldie over here, one of her good friends. And Jillian Robertson, only 26 years old. And in this fight, I think that she's going to want to look to get this fight down to the mat, use her grappling, try to exploit the zombie girl down there. If she doesn't, and she lets this fight take place on the feet for the majority of the time, I think that she's opening herself up to some danger. Priscila can take a shot, and she could throw some heavy hands. She's proven that now. So I don't think that's what Jillian wants to do here. You see Dean Thomas over here with her. And I mean, she's really a project, in the making, and she's looking to be one of the top fighters in the future. I think that she has that type of potential. She's not there yet. I'm not saying that she's there yet, but she surrounds herself with great talent, and you see a stable of women over here, and that is Miranda Maverick as well. So her last opponent getting in work with her, which is always something great to see. JJ Aldrich there, Mallory Martin. I mean, you're talking about some of the best women fighters in the world here. So as she continues to work on her striking, she has a great grappling base. I got to pick her to win this fight here, although it would be great to see Priscila, show up as well. But, Priscila, 2 inches taller with a 2-inch reach advantage, a little bit more of the rangy opponent. Again, she's going to try to use her boxing from the outside and try to see if she could take this fight like that. The line, Jillian Robertson, a -400. She opened up at a -280. She's been steamed down to that -400 range, so a lot of action coming in on her. I'm not really crazy about it in this range, personally. I mean, if she can't get the takedown, this fight takes place in the feet for the majority of time. We don't know how it's going to look on the judges' scorecards, and Priscila has shown that she has some pop in her hands too. At the end of the day, though, I do take Jillian Robertson to win the fight, but let's see how she mixes up the game. Randy Costa taking on Tony Kelly. 2 very fun fighters to watch, especially on the feet. Both of these guys really like to throw down. A little bit of different styles. Randy Costa, a little bit more of that little bit of polished. He's a polished boxer, but he also can definitely throw some nasty kicks. I mean, he's just a very grounded and technical striker, man. He has good technique, man. His hands are in position. His defense is good. He has nasty pop, nasty power on his strikes. Tony Kelly more so has that traditional martial arts, like that karate type style. He's a little bit he's a little stiff, in my opinion. Sometimes you notice these karate fighters, they're throwing certain techniques. I don't know, I've noticed like Jordan Wright as well. Jordan Wright is a little stiff. It's that type of karate style. I feel like Tony Kelly has a little bit of that as well, and sometimes that really affects him with his takedown defense, because he's so upright that before you know it, he's getting scooped up and put on his back. We saw that in the Kai Kamaka fight, if you guys remember, which was a great fight. I mean, and Tony Kelly showed that on the feet he could really inflict damage, throwing elbows and all that. But you got to wonder about his takedown defense, and he also is vulnerable to being landed on himself. I mean, he definitely ate some big shots in that fight, and has shown that he could work on some things there. And Randy Costa is a guy that will light you up. I mean, he looked amazing against Adrian Yanez towards the beginning of that fight. Now, he did end up, I don't know if I want to use this word breaking or folding, but he kind of did. He kind of broke down in that fight a little bit. But again, he's getting tagged up by Adrian Yanez, one of the nastiest boxers in the UFC, in mixed martial arts. And they went to war. And you can't be too harsh on the guy for that. I mean, they went to war. He got landed on a little bit as that fight started to progress, and it hurt him, and it ended up costing him there. And yeah, he did get finished. He got finished in that fight, but he did look spectacular before getting finished. He looked good in the beginning of that fight. Knockouts over Journey Newsome and Boston Salmon, two nice boxers there as well. But he's been submitted by Brandon Davis. That's not a good look here. I don't think Tony Kelly's necessarily a threat there. Expect this fight to take place in the feet. Like I said, I think Randy Costa is the better striker here. Although Tony's dangerous in his own right, I like Randy's style a little bit more. Randy will have a 3-inch reach advantage, which could definitely help him out, man. I really like his striking from the outside. And I got to lean Randy Costa to win this fight. Just the way he looked against Adrian Yanez in that first round. I mean, he looked nasty. You know, after coming off that loss, that he's going to be so motivated. You know that he was grinding it out in the gym. And you take a look at his age, 27 years old. You're going to see growth from a guy like this. I got to go with Randy Costa to win this fight. We take a look at the live line. He's right around a 2-1 favorite, up to that minus 225 range. And, I'm not really crazy about these types of lines, but I think that in a fight like this, because I think that Tony could definitely hold his own on the feet, and he could throw some nasty elbows. He can cut you up. He could throw some nasty kicks as well. And he's a little bit of an unorthodox type of striker in the sense that you don't always face a guy like him. But at the end of the day, I like Randy Costa to win the fight. That's going to be my pick. Ryan Hall taking on Derek Minner. This is a tricky one here. And really, anytime you got Ryan Hall involved in a fight, it's a tricky one. Because this guy has some wild moves that could really shake up a fight. If this guy gets a hold of your leg, the fight's over at any given time. So, even if you're whooping him up, or you think that of a certain fighter has some strengths in certain aspects. I mean, again, Ryan Hall is a guy that can just end the fight at any given time if you give him a chance to grab your legs. It's funny, man. I mean, Ryan Hall only has 10 professional fights. It's strange, being that, I mean, I remember watching him on The Ultimate Fighter, which seemed like, I don't even know, a decade ago. I mean, the guy just has been so inactive. I know there's been some talks about people not wanting to fight him. Maybe they're a little bit scared of those leg lock submissions. But, Ryan Hall showed in the Darren Elkins fight that he's really been working on his striking as well. Kind of has a karate-based type of style. I feel like that he's embraced kind of a karate style with his striking. He's very light on his feet, throwing a lot of kicks and whatnot, those light karate style type kicks. But at the end of the day, again, this guy is a jiu-jitsu phenomenon. I really believe that. And, he's coming off, without a doubt, the biggest blemish of his career. He took a devastating loss against a guy that is a guy that could potentially be fighting for the belt down the line. Ilia Topuria has shown a world of potential, and Ilia steamrolled him there, got the finish. But again, we're talking about an extremely high caliber of an opponent. Now, Derek Minner, on the other hand, he loses to Darren Elkins. That was a major letdown. He started out the fight off amazing, and he basically gave Elkins an opportunity to take that fight. He started to engage too much in the grappling, and he engaged in a very high-paced fight where if he would have slowed things down, he was the more skilled fighter. And, Elkins is a guy that just thrives on a grueling war. His cardio is ridiculous. And you saw Minner gassed out. And at the end of the day, Elkins was able to get his hand raised and got the finish there. Ended up, mounting him there for a minute, just really brutalizing him. Now, Minner's only 31 years old. He has a lot of professional experience, 38 professional fights. We know as of recently he's been training with James Krause, and he's looked good since moving over there. Ever since losing to Grant Dawson, he joined the team over there. He takes out TJ Laramie, takes out Charles Rosa, and then he makes that mistake there with Elkins. And I know for a fact that James Krause was very upset about what Minner did in that fight. I mean, it's not like I'm exposing the conversation. I actually talked to James Krause. I think it was through DM or a comment. I think it was through DM, actually. Yeah, it was DM. I shot him a message. I had to ask him, after watching that fight, I said I wondered so much. I had to ask you. I said, why is Derek Minner going down to the mat with Elkins when he had such a significant edge on the feet? And I know that you knew that. I know Krause knows that. He's so cerebral. And James Krause basically said to me in a short little paragraph that he completely went against what they were working on and was not listening to commands out there. And again, Krause would be the first guy to tell Minner, so it's not like he's talking behind his back or anything. And Minner knew that he made a mistake in there. How does Minner bounce back from that mistake here? This is a similar type of fight in the sense that Minner's going to have to be disciplined here, or if he hurts Ryan Hall, he can't just be jumping down in his guard or going down to the mat with him. I think Minner should keep this fight on the feet, throw some heavy hooks, throw some power shots, maybe push Hall against the cage a little bit, bully him up there, land some strikes, break off, but he doesn't need to be engaging on the mat. And this is a very tough fight. You know, Derek Minner's coming in as the dog. I like Minner. I've had the pleasure of chatting it up with him. And I really want to root for him to win this fight here, or I am going to be rooting for him. I want to pick him to win this fight. Been a little bit back and forth on this fight. Again, especially as Minner made that bad decision in the last fight to go down to the mat. I kind of worry that he does something stupid again. I mean, is he going to be disciplined this time around? You know, Derek Minner, he follows me on IG. I know he's checking my picks out. I don't want to make him upset here, and I'm really torn on this fight as well. I really am torn on this fight. It's not like, oh, you know, I think that Hall's just going to go in there and grab Minner's leg. I mean, Minner is a very well-rounded fighter, and he has the wrestling ability to keep this fight on the feet. You know, he has the strength and the wrestling to stuff those types of takedowns. Now, Ryan Hall's is not some orthodox type of grappler. I mean, he's going to be going for Amanari rolls and all that, grabbing your legs. Oh man, I've really been torn on this bet selection here, man. As you guys can tell, I've really been torn on it. I think the line's off. First off, I do think that the line is off. When you're talking about minus 220 on Ryan Hall, I think that that's an inflated line. We'll take a look at the live line here. I might slightly edge Ryan Hall to win this fight, but I mean, you're talking about these types of lines, minus 225. I don't know how you could feel comfortable with that, especially if Minner is able to avoid the danger down in the mat, and he should be the better striker. I think he lands bigger shots there. He'll be the stronger guy. He'll be a little bit more physical fit. He's more in the prime of his career. And, you know, I'm going to roll with Minner here. I'm going to take him to win this fight. All right. I think that he's going to learn from his last mistake. I think that James Krause is going to be on him. And I'm going to take Minner to win this fight. And hopefully I'm not regretting this bet selection. Again, I've had the pleasure to chat it up with him. I really don't think that that's interfering with my pick here, guys. I'm being honest with you. I think that Minner, he can definitely take this fight. It's a close one. It's a very close fight. And we'll go with Derek. We got Alex Perez taking on Matt Schnell. Now, I talked about something in the last fight. You know, I talked about some of these guys following me on IG and, you know, having the pleasure to have chatted with these guys and getting to know them a little bit on a personal level, man. Sometimes, you know, I'll just brush upon this. It's a little awkward, you know, when I'm doing my bet selections, especially with my Instagram posts, when these guys follow me, especially when I like these guys a lot. Like Matt Schnell is a perfect example of that. This is a guy that I've had the pleasure to chat it up with in the DMs. He's a cool dude. He ended up going to the same middle school as me. I didn't even know that. He was a little bit younger than me. He's an awesome dude. And he's a guy that will probably be seeing my my selection on the fight here posted. But I guess that's the nature of the business, right, guys? So, you know, he's facing a very tough opponent in Alex Perez. Alex Perez just had a big fight with Davison Figueiredo for the belt. It was about a year ago. I do not mind, you know, him taking that time off there. Maybe that's what he felt he needed. And, you know, I'm sure he went back to the drawing board and he sharpened the hell out of his skills. And let's not forget, man, Alex Perez was having some success in the beginning of that fight. He looked good at times in that fight. He looks extremely powerful on the feet. He's a well-rounded fighter. He can wrestle. He's a dangerous dude. Now in the Figueiredo fight, you know, he was caught with the guillotine. He got a little bit overly aggressive in there. He stuck his head in a little bit too much, and you guys remember how that went. It was just that was all she wrote. He wasn't able to get out of that. But again, Alex Perez looked good in the beginnings of that fight, and you see the potential the kid has. You see the skills that he has. He took out Jussier Formiga. That was a big win for him there. Jordan Espinosa, Mark De La Rosa, going back to his loss to Joseph Benavidez, and you know, 24-6 as a professional. In this fight, he'll be 2 inches shorter with a 4.5 reach disadvantage. So, you know, Schnell will have a nice reach advantage for him to try to use his boxing from the outside. I know that Schnell would like to do that. Schnell has some good hands. Schnell could be a little bit vulnerable to being being hit on the feet as well at times. His striking defense, I don't want to say it's lacking, but I mean, there's times he gets tagged up. There's definitely fights. If you break down tape on him, I mean, and all fighters are going to get hit up a little bit, but I mean, I've seen him take some clean shots that he should really be taking his head off the center line a little bit more so, or working on his head movement. You know, had a beautiful win against Tyson Nam. The Jordan Espinosa was a big one. Got the triangle choke there. Took out Louis Smoka. Losses to Pantoja. and Rogerio Bontorin as of recently. And coming into this fight, he's a pretty hefty underdog. We'll take a look at the live line. You know, Schnell right now is right around a plus 260. So people still very high on Alex Perez, right around that minus 350 range as a favorite. That line's a little bit surprising to me in the sense that, you know, he hasn't fought in almost a year. Definitely shows to have a lot of talent, but I think that is a little bit of a high line. At the end of the day, though, I have been impressed with what I've seen from Perez, and I do got to pick Perez to win this fight as much as I want to see Schnell win it. And again, like I said, I mean, this is one of those fights that, you know, it is what it is. I like Schnell. He's an awesome dude, but Perez to me has shown to be a very talented fighter. I got to go with Perez to win the fight. Andre Muniz taking on Eric Anders. Fight taking place in the middleweight division. Andre Muniz has been looking exceptional as of recently. We know he just broke Jacare's arm, one of the more decorated jiu-jitsu guys we've ever had in the mixed martial arts scene. I mean, to go in there and break Jacare's arm, that's such an accolade right there. Before that, getting the armbar over Bartosz Fabinski. Took on Antonio Arroyo before that, and then you go back to his Dana White's Contender Series debut against Taylor Johnson, the very tough wrestler. Like Taylor Johnson's over in Bellator. He was a guy that was very hyped up going into that fight, and Andre Muniz was the guy that showed up and really started to make a name for himself. Now he's 31 years old, almost about to be 32, even though he only has a couple fights in the UFC. I mean, he already has 25 professional fights, so this guy's right about in the prime of his career. You want to see more growth from his striking, but he has shown some flashes there as well. You know, he's a rangy guy, 78-inch reach compared to Anders' 75-inch reach. He's 6'1". I mean, he has a nice frame for the division. He's aggressive on the feet. I like the fact that he's an aggressive fighter. And that really plays into his jiu-jitsu as well, because he's willing to engage. He's willing to strike. Before you know it, you know, they're going at it, and you know, he'll be in on you. He'll get you down to the mat, or you know, he'll just shake things up. There'll be a little bit of chaos in there, and sometimes that just it enables you to get the fight down to the mat. He's a very active fighter. He's a fun guy to watch. And as far as his grappling goes, I've been extremely impressed with it. And this is dating back way before the Jacare fight. I've been extremely impressed with what I've seen from him on the mat for a bit now. We saw it in the Fabinski fight. I mean, if you go down to the mat with him, there's a great chance that he's going to submit you. And not just submit you, there's a chance that he's going to put you to sleep if you don't want to tap. There's a chance he's going to literally rip your arm, break your arm. Literally, I say literally rip your arm, but I guess I don't know if he quite has that ability, because even if he ripped it out the socket or he's breaking the bones, the skin's probably still going to kind of, you know, hold your arm together. He would have to pull out a knife or something to completely take your arm off. So I shouldn't say literally if it's not really literal. But you guys get the point I'm making, man. This guy is a nasty fighter. I'm a fan of his. I am a fan of his. He's grown on me. And I think you guys know which way I'm going to be leaning for this fight. Now, I had the pleasure to chat it up with Eric Anders as well. He's a funny dude. It was, you know, way back when I first started doing the interviews, I had the fans spinning in the back over here. I had just given myself a haircut. This was, you know, in the middle of COVID. I was buzzing myself up. It's funny times to look back at this stuff. But Eric Anders, you guys all know, man, one of the cooler guys in the game. Eric Anders has nasty knockout power as well. I mean, he's an athlete, former Alabama linebacker. If he gets his hands on you, man, he could put you out. Do not let him touch your chin. Carries some serious power. He just had that victory over Darren Stewart, and I really should have had another victory against him the first time around, but he hit him with that illegal knee. Loses to Jocko before that. And, you know, if there's a knock on Eric Anders, at times he's a little bit slow, you know, more of a powerful guy, not really the fastest or the quickest guy. And then if you can kind of maneuver around him, you can out-volume him, you could piece him up. You just got to avoid the power. I think Munhoz will be faster than him. Munhoz has some more, he has more weapons in his arsenal. I got to side with Munhoz here. This will be a good fight, though, for Munhoz. We'll see if he can continue the momentum going here. You know, yeah, fight taking place in the middleweight division. I know Eric Anders has jumped up and down a little bit as of recently, but I like Munhoz here. And we take a look at the live line. Munhoz is right around a -135 to -145 range. So this fight is capped pretty close. People have been impressed from what they've seen from Anders as of recently, as far as his striking goes. I think that his striking has shown some development even later in his career. He's been looking very, very crisp on the feet, and this is a guy that looks to close the distance on you and hurt you. But I got to go with Munhoz to win the fight. Bruno Silva taking on Jordan Wright, the Beverly Hills Ninja, who's coming off the biggest win of his career and one of the most exciting fights I've seen this year. Had that big win over Jamie Pickett. They really went to war. It was on a giant fight card. Jordan Wright was supposed to be fighting recently, but that fight did fall through, and that was against Julian Marquez. That was supposed to take place October 16th. Now he gets matched up with the very talented and tough Bruno Silva, who's 21-6 as a professional. He is 2-0 since joining the UFC, wins over Wellington Turman and Andrew Sanchez. The Andrew Sanchez fight was a very good look for him. Sanchez is a nasty boxer with a solid wrestling pedigree, and Bruno went in there and was willing to bring the war, and he got the finish there. Silva, he does carry some serious power. I like what I've seen from him on the feet with his power. Knockout victory over Wellington Turman. That was a fight that he did get down to the mat. He used some ground and pound there as well. So he's shown to be competent down on the mat as well. Jordan Wright, 30 years old, 6'2", 77-inch reach. He has a 3-inch reach advantage here. He's 2 inches taller. He has a big frame for the division. He has that traditional martial arts background, which definitely can help you out in certain ways. I think he's a very mentally tough guy, but I also think that traditional type of martial arts style can negatively affect him as well at times. His hands are low. He's looking to throw these wild spinning kicks and this and that, and I think it does open him up to being hurt with the boxing. And I think that's something that we may see here. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Silva lands some big shots. This is not anything new to the story of Jordan Wright. If you guys remember now, he was just knocked out by Joaquin Buckley. Now, in that fight, he was teed off on. A lot of other guys, in my opinion, are folding up much earlier than he did. So I actually do believe that Jordan Wright has a very durable chin. I do believe that. I think he can eat some shots. If you remember, watch that fight. I mean, he was on his feet for a while. A lot of guys are collapsing way earlier. Had a nice knockout over Ike Villanueva, and in the Villanueva fight, he showed that if you give him an opportunity to hurt you a little bit, I mean, he could really be diverse with his striking too. I mean, he'll mix it up. He'll mix in elbows. He has a lot of striking tools in his arsenal. We talked about the spinning attacks he'll throw on you. He'll throw some spinning kicks. Believe he might have hit. Was it Ike he hit? Can't remember if it was Ike. I think it was Ike. He might have hit him with the spinning wheel kick as well. I think he hit somebody with a nasty spinning kick. I remember seeing that on tape. The Anthony Hernandez fight, that was a loss here. It should be an L. There was a drug test or whatnot. I think it was like marijuana or something. It was marijuana, I believe. And he knocked Jordan Wright out there as well. And that was a fight I'm talking about where he has some holes in his striking defense. Hands are low. He's trying to set up these kicks and he can get teed off on. I think I could see that happening more so on Bruno Silva's side, with him landing some big shots and hurting Jordan Wright, more so than I see Jordan Wright getting away with what he got away with on Jamie Pickett. And although that was a spectacular knockout victory, I do think that the Beverly Hills Ninja is a dangerous fighter, but he's got a tough one ahead of him, and I got to go with the Brazilian here. The Brazilian has shown a little bit more to me. He's a well-rounded, dangerous man. He's a little bit more of a physical fighter, carries some serious power. I think he lands some big shots here, and I got to say that Bruno will probably be the guy that gets his hand raised in this fight. Now, we take a look at the live line. Bruno Silva right now is a favorite of up to -375, down as low as -335, 325. And maybe the line's a little hefty there. But again, I do side with Bruno Silva to win this fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if Silva gets the knockout. Maybe you want to look at the prop more so of Silva getting a knockout victory there than just attacking that high line there. That's kind of how I feel about that fight. We got the big boys throwing down. Augusto, Sakai taking on Tuivasa. This is an absolute perfect matchup, in my opinion. Augusto Sakai is a guy that's really gained my respect over the years. He's a guy that carries around a little extra weight, it looks like at times, but I mean, he's in there. He's explosive. He's deceptively quick. You look at him, you don't think that he's as quick as he is, but his hands are pretty fast, and he carries some serious power there. Tai Tuivasa coming off 3 victories in a row, showing that his entire skill set is being groomed. 3 victories in a row. The Greg Hardy knockout was a great knockout victory for him. Hardy landed on him first a couple times, but I mean, Tai was the guy that really landed the kill shot there. Before that, he knocks out Harry Hunsucker, and before that, he knocks out Stefan Struve. So continuing the narrative of him being a knockout fighter. If you guys remember, in the beginning of his career, he was really knocking dudes out left and right. Made a splash with his knockout over, was his name Coulter? Was his name Rashad Coulter? We could run the tape back real quick, but you guys remember the knockout I'm talking about? Yeah, Rashad Coulter. He hit him with a flying knee, which is hilarious to picture Tai Tuivasa throwing a flying knee, but he did, and that was a wild fight. Victories over Andrei Arlovsky, Cyril Asker, loses 3 in a row to JDS, Blagoy, Ivanov, and Sergey Spivak, and then again wins the 3 fights in a row. This is a great fight, a very, very tough fight to call. Augusto Sakai will have a 2-inch reach advantage. He's an inch taller. He's 30 years old. I don't know, for some reason I was thinking that Sakai was a little bit up there in age. He's really not. Only has 19 professional fights, and he's 30 years old. I mean, he's really in the prime of his career. Now, the Alistair Overeem fight was a really tough fight for him. He took some serious damage in that fight. Definitely had flashes in that fight as well, though. I mean, he showed what he's about. And again, he's a solid boxer. He really is. He has solid boxing. And that's really his strength, in my opinion, is that he's looking to go in there and put it on you. And this has all the makings to be a war. He just got knocked out by Jairzinho Rosenstruck, but Rosenstruck can do that to you. I mean, that's what he could do. He's a sniper. He's a guy that has a kickboxing background. I mean, he's a really, really talented striker. Augusto got caught that night, and I know that Augusto's looking for redemption here. And which way am I going to go with this fight? I think it's time that I side with Tai. As of recently, I kind of been turning my back on him, especially after a couple of the weaker performances he had. I kind of turned my back on him a little bit, and he's been kind of proving me wrong. I picked Greg Hardy to beat him. That didn't happen. And what else was the other fight? I think I picked against him. Definitely wasn't in the Harry Hunsucker fight. Might have been in the Stefan Struve. I'm trying to remember. But it's time for me to side with Tai Tuivasa. I like the guy. I like his energy. And he's only 28 years old. I think that he's coming into this fight for sure the best fighter that he's ever been. I think we're going to see more growth from him. The confidence is going to be sky high with the 3 victories. And I say that Tai can take some damage. I think he could weather the storm with Sakai throwing some shots on him. And I think Tai could look to land some big shots himself. And this has all the makings to be a barn burner. I'm letting you guys know that right now. We take a look at the live line. And we're talking about a pick'em. We're talking about a dead straight pick'em on every single book, right down the middle. I love to see these types of fights. How will this fight play out? Gonna roll with my boy Bam Bam here, the Wild Westie. And if you guys don't follow him on Instagram, you're missing out. This guy's a wild dude. He's on the live videos, chatting up with the fans, doing all types of wild stuff. This is a guy that's traveled the world and has worked on his craft. He's trained at different gyms. He's focused, put some work in with some of the big gyms, and has really sacrificed. This isn't a guy that's just staying put in his hometown and just enjoying the fame. I mean, this guy's really trying to become a big star in the game, and he's right on the verge of that. He has that type of personality with the shoeies and all that. Is this him here? That's hilarious if that's Tai. Look how thick the dude is running with the rugby ball. And let's see where he's at over here. But yeah, the pick is going to be Tai Tuivasa. That's the pick. I mean, we'll be sitting back enjoying this one. Oh, look at him over here again. That big old rugby boy. I mean, he's an athlete too, man. He's a big boy. He's a little softer on the midsection, but again, he can move. He's an athlete. Tai Tuivasa to win the fight. Pedro Munhoz taking on Dominic Cruz. Pedro getting another matchup with the legend here. And he's really been in there with some legends as of recently. Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar. I mean, he's really been in there with some great fighters. Cody Garbrandt in the UFC, again, giving him another giant name right here. Now, he's only won 2 of his last 5 opponents, but again, he's been matched up in there with some solid fighters. Loses to Aljamain Sterling, loses to Frankie Edgar. That was a fight that a lot of people thought that he probably won. You know, there's times that I would like Pedro to let loose a little bit more so with his hands. Definitely carries some solid power. And the Frankie fight, you know, I know if you were rooting for him to get the finish there or the victory, you wanted to see him step on the gas a little bit. It was a barn burner type of fight, though. I mean, it's easier said than done. I mean, I'm sure he was exhausted. In the Jose Aldo fight, again, easier said than done, but Aldo was starting to pick him apart a little bit. And I thought that Munhoz really should have stepped up the output in that fight. He was kind of walking him down, but he wasn't letting the volume go. Now, that could be a problem here because Dominic Cruz is a guy that is going to be very hard to hit. He's very tricky with the footwork, and he'll throw a lot of volume at you. And Dominic Cruz, I know, is going to be in there basically breakdancing on Pedro, in my opinion. So Pedro's going to really have to work on his footwork as well to close the distance and cut Dominic off and try to land some big shots. Munhoz has fight-ending ability on the mat with his submission skills. I mean, he is a guy that has gone in there. If you run the tape back, you know, he's submitted some guys with some nasty submissions, pulled off some tight guillotines, has knockout power in his hands too if he lands. Now, Dominic Cruz coming off a giant win over Casey Kinney. I guess I still want to call him Casey Keeney. I was calling him that for years until you guys harassed the crap out of me in the comment section. Casey Kenny. I don't know. Somebody used to call him Keeney, and it got stuck in my head. But, you know, losses to Henry Cejudo and Cody Garbrandt before that. 2 big names. Dominic, one of the greatest bantamweight fighters of all time. Still in phenomenal shape. The guy's work ethic is second to none. We want to talk about a fighter that is cerebral, that is intelligent in the cage, in the octagon. Look no further. Dominic Cruz, in my opinion, is about as intelligent as a fighter as I've ever seen fight. I really do believe that. So you know that Dominic Cruz is going to have a read on this fight like no other. He's done his research. He's put the work in. I got to side with Dominic Cruz here. I think that Dominic Cruz's footwork is going to be a little bit too much for Pedro. Pedro will be plotting. He'll be trying to walk him down. He'll be looking for that big shot. But I think Dominic Cruz is going to be in and out. I think he's going to be in and out. Dominic Cruz, of course, has the wrestling background, great takedown defense. It's not like Pedro will easily be able to go in there and get any type of takedown, in my opinion. So I think this fight does favor Cruz. And Cruz now almost 37 years old. He's getting to that age where you got to keep an eye on him there as well. But he will have a 3-inch reach advantage. He's 2 inches taller. He's the naturally larger man. There really are some strengths here for him, in my opinion. And Pedro is no spring chicken either. So, I mean, he's 35. He's right behind Dominic there. I know it seems that Pedro has really carved out his name in the game a little bit later, where Dominic's, of course, you know, former WEC champion and all that, a legend in the game. And I side with Dominic Cruz. Excuse me again, man. My voice, I'm telling you guys, man, I was shouting. I was shouting at these games, and my voice is gone. I'm surprised I pulled it together as long as I've had here on the mic. But Dominic Cruz is a legend in the game here, and I like him to win this fight. He's a -110. It's a dead pick'em. So people giving Pedro that respect as well. Side note as well, man, I met Pedro at an event, and he was one of the coolest dudes that I've ever met. And I truly mean that. Not just throwing that out there like, oh, I met the guy, he was cool. I mean, Pedro was the real deal. Super, super good guy. And, you know, I don't know, though. He's going to have to show me something here. He's going to have to show me some more output in this fight. And in this fight, he's going to have to show me good footwork to close the distance and not just be chasing Dominic around for 15 minutes. Because if he wasn't working on some things here, I think that Dominic's going to give him some trouble. And we'll see how this fight plays out. And Pedro will have another chance to try to defeat a legend in the game. Let's see how it plays out. I got Dominic Cruz, I got Dominic Cruz to win the fight. Josh Emmett taking on Dan Ige. 2 very, very dangerous opponents here squaring off. This is really a solid matchup here. Josh Emmett, 16-2. He's only lost 1 of his last 5 fights, so he's been really picking it up as of recently. Big win over Shane Burgos. Big knockout victory over Mirsad Bektik. And the knockout over Michael Johnson, lost to Jeremy Stevens there. That was a fight I saw live, and Emmett had his moments too, but he ended up getting cracked by Stevens and finished. And then before that, a knockout over Ricardo Lamas. So when you talk about action in a fight, I mean, Josh Emmett is up there with the best of them. I mean, he's either going in there and taking your head off, or he's getting cracked himself. Josh Emmett, the longtime Team Alpha male member, he has the wrestling background. He's fell in love with his boxing and the power in his hands, and he's thrived there. 16-2 is a very respectable record. Dan Ige is a guy that I have a lot of respect for as well. A very complete fighter, has some really solid grappling, solid jiu-jitsu skills, and can definitely crack you on the feet as well. Coming off a tough loss to the Korean Zombie, knocked out Gavin Tucker before that, and before that he loses to Calvin Kattar. We know Calvin's boxing skills are very nasty. The split decision victory over Edson Barbosa. That was a decision I didn't really agree with, but nevertheless, he thrived in the third round, and he took that third round, and he gave himself an opportunity for the judges to side with him there. He went to a split decision with Mirsad Bektik, and Bektik was really pushing the grappling in that fight, and Dan Ige was able to nullify that, and he was the more complete fighter on the night. This is a great matchup here. It really is a great matchup. I want to take a look at how active Josh Emmett has been. His last fight a year and 5 months ago, almost a year and a half ago. Before that, 2.5 years ago, basically. So Emmett has not been that active. That's a little bit of an X factor in this fight, where Dan Ige, he's been throwing down, almost 3 fights in the last year, amongst, the average amount of fights of an active fighter's getting in a year, and Josh Emmett's definitely been on a little bit of a hiatus here. I'm going to assume that Josh Emmett bounces back or comes back into this fight, just flowing on all cylinders, picking right up where he left off. I'm going to assume that all his skills are ready to go. He's putting in the work in here with his boxing, and he's going to come in phenomenal shape. He has the wrestling pedigree to keep this fight on the feet if that's where he wants to keep it. Maybe he gets on top, lands a couple of shots as well, works some ground and pound. But Dan Ige's no slouch down there as well, so you have to be careful. I'm going to side with Josh Emmett. He's a fighter that I've been tailing and I've been watching for a long time. He's made me some good money, and I think that he has the ability to crack anybody with a big power shot and really put them out, or just kind of intimidate his opponent in the cage. And I know Dan Ige is not a guy that's easily intimidated or nothing. And when I say intimidated, I'm talking about when you feel the fighter's power, you see them a little bit more hesitant. They're not engaging as much. They're throwing a little bit less, because that's the type of fighter Emmett is. I mean, he's going to throw some shots out there that's really going to make his opponent kind of be a little bit extra cautious as he goes in. And it plays out for Emmett nicely like that, where he'll take a decision as well. Emmett throws some nasty leg kicks too. Keep an eye on the power leg kicks. I got Josh Emmett to win this fight. We'll take a look at the live line. Emmett's right around a -160 to a -190, as high as a -190 there. With the a little bit of the inactivity, it's a little bit of a puzzle in a sense. But Josh Emmett should be the better fighter on the night. That's gonna be my pick. We got Sugar Sean O'Malley taking on Julian Paiva. So the UFC really looking out for Paiva here after delivering in another extraordinary fight, a very fan-pleasing fight against Kyler Phillips. Now he gets a big name in Sean O'Malley. People, fighters, they really want these types of fights. I mean, you remember, who's that guy, that bald guy? I used to have a beef with this guy back in the day. Brian Kelleher. Brian Kelleher was begging on the mic for a fight with Sean O'Malley for about, 2 years straight, never even got it. I mean, fighters want these big name guys. It helps bring them recognition. Some people feel that Sean O'Malley's a little overhyped. Personally, I disagree. I think Sean O'Malley is a guy that is very, very skilled on the feet. He's a completely different type of fighter than a lot of other guys. He could really style on you. He could put you out. He is not an easy puzzle to solve. We did see Marlon Chito Vera take him out. That was a fight where he kind of, took the leg out of Sean O'Malley, was able to get him down to the mat, and then, finished him there. I think that Sean O'Malley is a guy, I think you have a better chance. A lot of these guys have a better chance of beating him by trying to injure him or chop the legs down. We saw in the Andre Sukumtat fight, I think his knee gave out on him as well. And that was a fight that Andre should have won. He just didn't understand that all he had to do was stand up, and he would have won that fight. But, Sean O'Malley, a little bit of a frail guy, in my opinion, a little bit of a thin guy, and I think he could be vulnerable to those types of losses throughout his career. But if that doesn't happen, good luck at outpointing him on the feet. Good luck at not getting your head teed off on, like you're a tight list number 8 and you're sitting there on the tee, and Sean O'Malley's pulling out the driver ready to whack your head off. Because when you fight him, you're gonna have some limbs being thrown at your head from all different angles and directions. I mean, you're gonna have spinning heel kicks, flying knees. You're gonna have head kicks coming at you. You're gonna have all different types of things. Beautiful step-in straights, and he's gonna set them up in these unorthodox, awkward ways. If you've seen Sean O'Malley in some videos, he's talked about some of his setups, and you see him practicing, and then the moves that he throws out there are really things you just don't typically see. And you see things he's working on. He's talking about, I want to set this move up here in the octagon. And I forget the one move he was showing, how he was setting up this crazy boxing attack that stepped into like a spinning heel kick. I mean, it's just wild stuff. And he truly believes that he's going to start to string off all those types of knockouts. And I don't really doubt him. Julian Paiva, 3 fights in a row. A guy that's a very complete fighter. He has good jiu-jitsu. He's a nasty striker. He's a little bit more bread and butter with his striking. If you guys catch my drift, he's a little bit more straight to the punch. I mean, he's in there. He's looking to make it a barn-burning type of fight. He's throwing nice, heavy straights, hooks. He's just brawling it out with you. He's a really solid fighter. He had experience down in the flyweight division. Now he fights up at the bantamweight division, which is a great move in my opinion. He's 5'8". He's really not too short for the division. Almost a 70-inch reach. It's not like he's some undersized type guy. I think he's a little bit better in this division with his frame. The flyweight division, I guess he wasn't really feeling that cut. He's 21-3. It's a very respectable record. This is a legit fight. This is a legit fight for Sean O'Malley. This is not a setup fight. Anybody that's talking about this fight as some type of padded fight for Sean O'Malley, I disagree with you. I don't think there's many guys that are thinking that Paiva is a walk in the park. Why don't you go ask Kyler Phillips what he thinks about that? Kyler had him hurt early. Paiva shows no signs of ever giving up in his fights. He has a crazy heart. He's a talented guy. And Sean O'Malley better be on his P's and Q's, or else he could be in for a tough night. At the end of the day, you guys know I talked about the skills that Sean O'Malley has. I think that Sean O'Malley will be a little bit too quick for him. I think O'Malley will mix in some of those wild attacks. Maybe he lands a big shot, but even if he doesn't, I gotta believe that he's gonna be the one up on the scorecards. I think he will be winning the decision if it goes there. The only thing you have to keep an eye on is that Paiva doesn't hit him with a heavy attack and injure him or start to break him. You know what I mean? Maybe crack the legs up with some nasty leg kicks, try to land some big shots. I want to see more of Sean O'Malley, how he faces the adversity of being landed on more so. That's what he needs to prove to me more. I need to see him, taking shots and surviving through them. A lot of times he has great footwork. He's very good with his head movement. He's not being landed on so much as well. How is he going to look when Paiva's teeing off on him a little bit too, and it's a war, if that happens? At the end of the day, though, I got Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley right now is right around a -305 up to a 350 favorite. You guys know the deal. Anytime Sean O'Malley's in there, he seems to be a heavy favorite, and you got to be careful a little bit. Maybe the line could be a little bit overinflated with his name in the game. He has a large following. I think that Sugar takes the fight, though. But he better hope it doesn't play out to be a fight like this again. And you run the tape back. I was just rewatching this fight. This fight was a crazy fight, man. The Kyler Phillips versus Julian Paiva fight, and it was a close one too, right? But it was a crazy fight. And Paiva won the majority decision, and it was a wild fight. And I think he was 10-8'd in the first round too, right? So Paiva showed he could be 10-8'd, beat down in the first round, and then come back. Looking to take your head off for the next 2 rounds. Gotta respect a guy like that. Sean O'Malley is going to be my pick, though. And don't be surprised if O'Malley lands a flashy knockout, because Paiva will be in the pocket. He'll be looking to throw, and he'll give you some opportunities there. Sean O'Malley is going to be my pick. Taking place in the flyweight division. You heard that right. The flyweight division. Cody Garbrandt takes on Kai Kara France. This is a very solid fight for Cody as he makes his introduction into the division. Kai Kara France, a guy that's 5-2 in the UFC, 22-9 as a professional. training out of City Kickboxing. He's a very well-rounded fighter, and he's a guy that knows how to get his arm raised. There's no question about that. Cody Garbrandt, as of recently, he's been having a little bit of a tough time, but he's fighting the best of the best. He really is. You look at his last 5 fights, he's only won 1 of his last 5 fights. Losses to TJ Dillashaw twice in a row. Those were championship fights where TJ, we now know at the time, was on EPO. He loses to Pedro Munhoz. That was a fight where he chose to engage in that fire type of fight, and I think Cody's brain still wasn't healed up from all the damage he took from TJ Dillashaw. I really do believe that. Bounces back with a beautiful knockout victory over Rafael Assunção, a very solid opponent there, another high caliber fighter. And then he loses to Rob Font, which I think even watching Rob Font this weekend, you guys all realize how talented of a fighter he is as well. Even though he loses to Aldo, there's no question that Rob Font is cut from a different cloth. Cody still has a lot to offer, in my opinion. Even in that Rob Font fight, we saw some flashes of his boxing skills, but we know what his boxing's about. We saw the knockout over Assunção. We saw him style on Dominic Cruz back in the day. We know he really started out his mixed martial arts career as a boxing type of guy. Now, he had the wrestling background as well, but he also was very big into boxing. I believe his uncle is a boxing trainer, and Cody has lightning fast hands. He's a well-rounded fighter, and really one of the only mistakes that he runs into at times is he's a little bit too willing to engage in a war. When he gets shot, when he gets hit with a shot, he kind of jumps into the fire, and sometimes it costs him. He did show in his last fight, though, against Font, that he could stay disciplined. And even though he didn't win that fight, I think that he showed that he was trying to take the cerebral route. He was trying to be patient in there. And I think that will benefit him in the long run, even though he didn't win that fight. I think that this is a fight that is definitely within reach for him. Of course, he's brushing shoulders with all the greats. You see him over putting in work with Coach Mark Henry. You see him over there with Frankie. And it's kind of funny if you think about it, because he gave hell to TJ Dillashaw when Dillashaw started to branch out and train at other gyms, even though the situation was a little bit different. But Cody's definitely bouncing around these days, right? He's over in Jersey, I believe, with Mark Henry, and also still trains with Faber and the boys. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do believe that is the case, so maybe I'm wrong on that. You guys can correct me, but I know that he has put in work with Mark Henry, and I don't believe Mark Henry was coming into Team Alpha Male to put in work with him. Putting in work here with Yadong Song, that's talk about iron sharpening iron. That's big time iron and sharpen right there. Now, in regards to Kai Kara France, this is a guy that really knows how to get his hand raised, and he's a guy that's coming off a big finish over Rogerio Bontorin. That was a big fight for him. If you really have looked at Kai Kara France's record, even though he's won a lot of fights, he's not a guy that's really had the ability to get finishes for whatever reason. He's a guy that constantly goes to decisions. You want to see him open up that element of his game. You want to see the striking continue to come around where he has that ability to finish opponents. In a fight like this is a great example of that. You're fighting a guy in Cody Garbrandt who has shown to have some holes with his chin at times, and you want to have that going into the fight. You want to have that threat where you could potentially take him out. You don't necessarily want to sit there and go tit for tat with Cody. Cody's a very, very slick and quick striker, and it's not really the greatest percentage of a chance you're going to win a decision there. And I really do believe that. I think Kai Kara France is really going to want to let his hands go and try to test the chin of Cody here. So again, coming back into the octagon, coming off of a very big knockout victory over Rogerio Bontorin. Before that, he loses to Brandon Royval, takes out Tyson Nam before that, and then he loses to Brandon Moreno before that, the current champion. So he's been in there with some high-level competition, has a victory over Julian Paiva, a guy that we just spoke about, a guy that's very talented, has victories over Mark De La Rosa, Elias Garcia. So he's definitely a very polished fighter. I like this matchup here for Cody, because if Cody gets the victory here, we can start to really talk about some big name fights, and it's not like, oh, Cody just has this big name recognition and we're just matching him up with these guys for no reason. We want some substance behind it. I want to see him go to the top of the ranks pretty quick in this division, which I'm sure he will. And there's some excellent matchups here for Cody. And, breaking down tape on Cody as of recently, Cody's definitely a guy that I think should be fighting at the flyweight division. I do believe that. I mean, he had a lot of success, of course, at the bantamweight division. He was a champion. But when you break down tape on him and you see him locked in there with certain guys like Rob Font, I mean, to me, he looked just a little small in there. He looks maybe not the most undersized, but I could see how he could be a solid flyweight fighter. I mean, he's 5'8". As far as the height goes, that's a decent height for the division. We talked about Paiva being 5'8". He also used to fight down at the flyweight division. But I think that with Cody's frame, he'll do fine down there. I know he's a guy that knows how to do a proper weight cut. I think he'll be fine here. And I'm going to take Cody to win this fight. Barring he doesn't make any major mistakes and gets the chin tested. Of course, I still really do believe that Cody's chin is always one decent shot away from having him stumbling around the octagon. I really do believe that. I hope that's really not the case. He's only 30. I'm hoping that he has rebounded there a little bit. But something just tells me that these fights here, I know that was almost 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago with Munhoz and TJ. Something tells me that there's still potential for that to happen. Although you do have to like that he took a good amount of time off since those fights and hasn't been extremely active. Going into his last fight, he took about a year break, even going into that fight. So, I mean, he's been really kind of spacing things out, and that's good. I think that's good for him, for his brain. And he has all the skills in the world. Rob Font was just a little bit too much for him that day, but I think that Kai Kara-France is by no means Kai Kara-France is by no means a Rob Font. So I don't expect Cody to get bullied around like that at all. In fact, I expect Cody to be a little bit of a bully in this fight himself, and I'm picking Cody to win the fight. And we'll take a look at the live line right now. Cody Garbrandt is right around a -155 favorite here. And that's with a little bit of action coming in on Kai Kara-France. We've seen Cody as high as I believe in 175, even a -180 at times here. So I think people are still having some questions about Cody that I've kind of talked about here. I think people still wonder how the chin will hold up if it gets tested. How is he mentally after losing another fight here against Rob Font? He's been losing a lot of fights as of recently. Does he come in with that same confidence? And we'll see how it plays out. But Cody is my pick. Miranda Maverick taking on Erin Blanchfield. Now, this is a fight that I really think you guys need to take a deeper look into. Miranda Maverick is a girl that's been coming in as a pretty solid favorite for quite some time now, and the majority of her fights. She's a very physically imposing fighter, and people have been kind of aware about what she brings to the table for some time, and people really respect her abilities. Fighting over in Invicta, she comes in. She was a former Invicta champion, I do believe. She comes in, gets victories over Liana Jojua. Jojua has since been cut from the UFC, and she really showed to be a fighter that was not on the level. So you kind of got to look at that fight there, and you got to kind of take a little something away from that. It's not as respected as maybe it once was when we didn't know what Jojua was about. She gets a victory over Jillian Robertson. That's a respectable name there. Now, the Macy Barber fight, she loses a split decision. I thought that Maverick did enough to win that fight. I actually had an official play on her, and I think a lot of people agreed that Maverick probably won that fight. If you guys remember, there was a lot of people saying that it was a robbery. I don't know if I would go that route, but I thought Maverick did enough to win the fight. But I also didn't like the way that she slowed down a little bit in the third, and she kind of allowed that to happen. In this fight, though, this girl, Erin Blanchfield, I think she's a girl that's a little bit under the radar, and that's what I want to talk about here. Erin Blanchfield, 7-1 as a professional. Now, she's fighting over in Invicta a little bit, CFFC. She made her UFC debut against Sarah Alpar, which it worked out perfectly for her, and I think that it's a blessing that she didn't get matched up with girls like Norma Dumont. Pearl Gonzalez, she fights over in BKFC nowadays anyway, but I think Sarah Alpar was a perfect fight for her to get a nice victory there, and she really looked good in that fight. But now take a look at some of these victories that she had coming into the UFC. The Victoria Leonardo head kick knockout victory over in Invicta was an excellent showcase of her skills. It was a nasty head kick. You can pull it up online. So you could really see that this is a girl that's not in there, joking around and messing around in the feet. She's in there to straight take you out. And that's what she showed in the Sarah Alpar fight too. She was going in there, going nonstop, man, from the beginning of that fight, looking to finish that fight. Her only loss as a professional was a split decision loss to Tracy Cortez, Brian Ortega's girlfriend, a very, very tough fighter, has a wrestling background, very talented fighter. But check out some of these other names that she's defeated. Kay Hansen. Kay Hansen is a stud. You guys know about Kay Hansen. She is 7-4, but this is a girl that's only 22 years old, and people are very, very high on. Okay, so let's not forget that. And she had a very, very tough fight in her last fight against Corey McKenna. Corey McKenna is also a very a fighter with a lot of potential, I should say. Corey McKenna's been training since she was very young, and that was a hell of a fight. Two top prospects. The point being, let me not stray off the point too much. The Kay Hansen victory was a big victory. I do believe that. There's going to a split decision with Tracy Cortez. That shows you what kind of skills that she brings to the table. Knocking out Victoria Leonardo with the head kick knockout. I do believe that Erin Blanchfield is a solid fighter. I do believe that. So I really don't expect this to be a walk in the park for Miranda. When I initially heard the matchup, I was definitely thinking Miranda's going to go in here and handle business. I think Miranda's going to be the more physical fighter. You know, she's going to be stronger. She's a very physically imposing girl. She really brings the fight, but Erin is about that same business. So I'm kind of interested to see how this fight's going to match up. It says here Erin Blanchfield is a -140 favorite, with Maverick being a +115 underdog. Let's pull up the live line on that because let me see something here. Yeah, because that is not the case, and I don't think that ever was the case. So I think Tapology actually had that backwards. When I saw that, I knew that didn't make any sense the first time. Yeah, so Miranda Maverick is the -145 favorite. She's been as high as -150. And I just want to say that, you know, I like Miranda Maverick, man, and especially coming off that loss where she was probably very, very frustrated when it was a split decision loss that didn't go her way when she thought she did enough. I know now she's going to have a little bit more of a killer instinct. I truly feel that. She's really going to go out here on Saturday. She's going to go out there and she's going to look to take the fight. She's not trying to leave it in the hands of the judges, and I think that's a good thing as well. But Erin Blanchfield knows what she's doing as well, and she's a very aggressive fighter. These girls are going to clash. And if Miranda does slow down a little bit in the later rounds, that's going to be a problem for her too, because Erin's going to be bringing that energy the same way Macy Barber was late. And you never know when another split decision gets announced and you don't get your hand raised if you're Miranda Maverick. Now, with that all being said, at the end of the day, my pick is going to be Miranda Maverick. I just have a feeling that for the majority of this fight, she'll be the aggressor. I think that she'll be the fighter that is kind of pressing Blanchfield against the cage a little bit as they engage in some striking exchanges. And I'm not super confident in that because Blanchfield is a girl that does not back up typically. But something tells me that Miranda Maverick's just her ability to bully opponents will take place once again. She's mostly done that throughout her entire career. I mean, she's gone in there and really bullied girls with her physical traits. She's a nasty striker as well. I know you see Blanchfield is no slouch either. You see her hitting the pads here. But Miranda Maverick is a girl that's not just all muscles and brawn. She's a girl that's very technical with her striking as well. And I'm going to side with her to win this fight. I'm really intrigued with this fight. I think the winner will really have some momentum going forward. And either way, I think that the future is bright for both of these fighters here. So if you didn't realize, this is a very solid fight taking place on the women's side of things here. And I'm excited for it. And we will roll with the very tough and talented Miranda Maverick. Geoff, Hands of Steel, Neal taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio. Geoff Neal has now lost 2 fights in a row. If you guys remember, Geoff Neal was a guy that was really steaming with potential. People were super, super high on the route that he was going. He was going in there just taking dudes out, you know, finishing Mike Perry the way that he did. Think what you may about Mike Perry, but Mike Perry is a guy that has proven to be extremely durable. And to go out there and take him out the way that he did, that really put everybody on the edge of their seat. The knockout over Nico Price, another guy that's super durable. Victory over Bilal Muhammad, always a very tough outing. Whether you're a fan of his or not, I don't really care for Bilal. I think he's kind of corny. But Santiago Ponzinibbio now, let's take a look into this. You know, he gets a big victory over Miguel Baeza. That was a fight where he was going into it as a slight underdog. He was coming in as, you know, the the crafty veteran. That's a nasty striker. You know, a guy that's been in there for a while now. He's had a little bit of a break from the game. He took a little break for a while, came back to the game. And Miguel Baeza was the up-and-comer who was really steaming with potential at the time as well. Baeza's been having a tough time. Recently, he took another loss. But this was a fight where Baeza started off pretty good in the beginnings, but Santiago Ponzinibbio showed to be very durable, showed to up the pace of his activity as the fight went on. That's something that I really enjoyed watching, and I think that that's something you definitely want to keep an eye on. When you see a fighter really start to pick it up as things are going on, I really feel that that's a sign that things are going great with what's going on with them and their training and whatnot. And I really do believe that Ponzinibbio was extremely motivated going into that fight, coming off the knockout loss over the Leech, Jingliang Li. Now, remember, going into that Jingliang Li fight, how about this? It had been, before that fight, it had been over 2 years since his last knockout victory over Neal Magny. So there was probably some ring rust going on in that Lee fight, man. You got to assume something was a little off there. And again, not to take anything away from Lee, because Lee's a very talented fighter. But now, the Baeza fight, he goes into that fight and he was a little bit back into the mix of things there. He was just inside the octagon. And although he did lose, still, he was probably going into that fight not really fearing what was going to happen as much. You know, you take a loss like that, what's going to happen in the next fight that's any worse than getting knocked out like that? And he went in there and he just let things fly. And he's a nasty striker. He has nasty leg kicks. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that could really hang with him on the feet in the division. And he's really that talented. I mean, Geoff Neal is a guy that brings those same type of skills to the table, though. That's what makes this fight so exciting. I think that this is going to be a clash of two strikers. I think so, for the most part, unless one of these guys tries to throw a little wrinkle in the game. But I think that these guys stand up and they see who the better striker is. Now, Geoff Neal is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage, even though Ponzinibbio is the taller guy, only by an inch. But so, I mean, I give Geoff Neal the advantage as far as the frame goes. And the line is extremely close. This is pretty much a dead pick'em fight. And, excuse me, here we go. I'm going to let you guys know who my pick is right now. My pick is going to be Santiago Ponzinibbio. Even though I'm very high on Geoff Neal still, and I don't think that he's near done. I know he took those 2 losses. I think that he's going to come back strong. I think this is a tough fight for him because Santiago Ponzinibbio is just steaming with momentum right now. I do believe that. And I also met Santiago Ponzinibbio at an event. I had the pleasure of chatting with him a bit, and he was a cool dude. But he's an absolute killer. He's an absolute killer on the feet, and if he fights the same way he fought Baeza here, I think it's his fight here. I really do think it's his fight. I mean, Geoff Neal loses to Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson's a world-class striker, so it's kind of hard to compare Thompson to Ponzinibbio. I mean, they're both amazing strikers, but different skill sets too. With Thompson with the karate base, where Santiago is coming at you pretty much Muay Thai style, whipping leg kicks and just trying to box your face off. And Neal Magny, that was a whole different fight, right? Neal Magny was, pushing him against the cage, grinding him out. It's a little bit of a different type of fight too. So Geoff Neal will have another opportunity to prove that his striking can hang with anybody. But I think Santiago Ponzinibbio takes this fight. But it's not really a strong lean. It's just it's really a tough fight to pick. But I'll pick Santiago. Amanda Nunes taking on Julianna Peña. Amanda Nunes, in many people's eyes, the greatest women's mixed martial artist of all time. Not in my eyes. I think that Valentina Shevchenko is. And I love to just throw that in every time because it ruffles a couple of your guys' feathers. No matter how you spin it, though, Amanda Nunes is as good as it gets, man. She's right there. And even if I said Shevchenko's the women's GOAT, I think it's 1A, 1B. You guys know I had Shevchenko beating Amanda Nunes both times, really. And one time I thought was a complete robbery. But either way, Nunes is a very, very talented fighter. I want to talk about a fight here in case you guys forgot about it. It was a long time ago, but if we've ever seen a chink in Amanda Nunes' armor, it was against Kat Zingano. If you guys remember, she was taken down in that fight, and she was exploited a little bit on the ground. She got ground and pounded. Since then, of course, she's ran through everybody. And look at the names of these fighters that she's taken out too, man. Sarah McMahon, Shevchenko, but that didn't happen. Misha Tate, Ronda Rousey, Shevchenko, didn't happen, that one. But Raquel Pennington, Chris Cyborg, Holly Holm, Jermaine Durandamy, Felicia Spencer, Megan Anderson. The last two fighters, not so much on the level, in my opinion, compared to some of those other big names. So hopefully Nunes isn't slacking here, you know, and she's going into this fight thinking that it's going to be as easy as the last two, because I think that Julianna Peña does bring a little bit more to the table than Spencer and Anderson. Spencer is a decent grappler. She's tough too, but I think Julianna Peña is a little bit better. Julianna Peña can definitely wrestle. She's extremely tough. And it's funny, right? Because she actually got into mixed martial arts from just doing some type of aerobics class back in the day. And then she just really just dove straight into it. But she's a girl that can grapple with the best of them. And the reason why I brought up that Kat Zingano fight is because I think that Julianna is definitely going to have to try to get this fight down to the mat. She has to make this an ugly fight and somehow end up reversing Amanda, or somehow end up on top, and she has to try to work some ground and pound. She's ferocious down there, and if she just stands on the feet with Amanda, I just don't think that she could win there. Amanda's too technical. Her power is ridiculous. I mean, Julianna can land some shots here and there. She's a little bit awkward with her striking. I could see her landing a couple shots maybe, but it's not going to be enough to win a decision to my mind. And I'd be pretty surprised also to see her clip Amanda and knock her out. It's just not really what we've seen. I mean, her bread and butter is her grappling game. You see her in her last fight. She had the rear naked choke victory over Sarah McMahon. You know, in a lot of these fights, she used her wrestling to take these fights, if you guys remember. So I think that that's definitely the avenue that she's going to have to go down if she wants to win this fight. Amanda Nunes has excellent takedown defense. It's going to be very hard to get in on her. She has great footwork, and just trying to get in on her, she's going to be just smashing your face up with strikes, and her leg kicks are devastating. I gotta say, I gotta cut to the chase here. I mean, I think we all know which way we're all going here. If you're taking Julianna Peña, comment below. I want to see that now. But I was gonna say, I think that we're all going the same way. I think we got to go Amanda Nunes here. She's a beast. She really is. It's funny too. I had a buddy that lived in the same complex that she lived, right next to the American Top Team. I remember I was swinging by real quick and dropping something off or whatever, and Amanda Nunes goes walking by with her bag over her shoulder, walking around the parking lot. And this was before she was the champion, but I knew who she was. I should have said something to her then. Should have got a picture. Now it would have been pretty cool. But she's a physical specimen. There's not a lot of women that have this type of frame and that could hit the way she hits. You know, with all due respect, I mean, I don't know a better way to put it. I mean, she's a fighter that, for a woman, I mean, she hits like a guy. I mean, she really puts some serious power in her punches. Like, I don't even question that she could probably put some guys out. And I don't mean that necessarily like in them fighting, but I'm saying if a guy was just to put his hands down to the side and give a free shot, I think Nunes is sleeping people left and right. And I don't know. There's some women's fighters that you can give them a free shot. I don't think they're just really knocking everybody out. She's a different type of breed. And I got to go with the Amanda Nunes here. I'll take a look at the line. Let's see here. Amanda Nunes, we already know she's going to be a giant favorite. She's as high as a -900. And right around that -800 range. So you're going to have to throw it in a parlay if you want to do something with it. Unless you're taking some dog odds on Julianna Peña. But I need to see you guys comment that now before these fights take place. Because I don't want anybody saying that they had Julianna after the fact there. So Amanda Nunes is going to be the pick. I think that she's going to just pick Julianna apart on the feet. I think that's how it's going to go. I think Julianna could survive, though. She's a tough chick. And I hope she brings the fight. I hope that Julianna can work in some grappling exchanges and make it an exciting fight. But it's going to be tough. Hey, you guys, 2 quick announcements. I'm going to make it real quick for those of you guys that already know the deal. If you're looking for a sports book to try out, or if you're just looking for a new sports book, Bovada.lv is great. And if you guys reach out to me, I'll send you my referral link. We'll both get a bonus when you sign up. I'll also give you a free event of my official picks. I'll give them all to you for free just for signing up through my referral link. And it's highly appreciated. And I think that you guys will not regret it at all. It's a great sports book here. And the payouts are great. They got a phone service you can call. I mean, they're really, really good, is bovada.lv. And again, just reach out to me for any questions you have on it. You can reach out to me through my email, mmafortuneteller@gmail.com, my Instagram, mmafortuneteller_. Shoot me a DM, or my Twitter, the MMA Teller, which I finally fixed my Twitter now. I can receive messages. And also, if you want to work with me with my official plays, shoot me a message asking me about my prices, and I would love to work with you guys. I guarantee you it's going to be a profitable event this upcoming Saturday. Every time I tell you guys that, I make it happen. So this last event wasn't profitable. It was slightly unprofitable. We went 2 for 2, but it just slightly was unprofitable as far as from a units avenue. I'm making this upcoming event a profitable one. I would love for you to work with me. Reach out to me, guys, and let's make it happen. We made it to the main event. Charles do Bronx Oliveira taking on Dustin Poirier. Dustin the Diamond, one of the greatest to ever do it in the lightweight division. No question about that. Charles Oliveira, I think you could pretty much say the same thing about him at this point. I mean, he's holding gold. He has the most submission victories inside the UFC of all time. I mean, what kind of accolade is that? I think that that's an accolade that he has that really gets swept under the rug quite often. People don't really give him the respect that he deserves. I remember chirping about him being the greatest MMA submission artist of all time for a while now, and people used to actually get a little annoyed with that. And people would say, oh, what about Damian Maia or this and that? And nowadays I could say it, and you don't really hear people saying nothing about it. The numbers speak for themselves. I mean, this guy has the most submissions of all time in the octagon, and he has such a diverse amount of submissions, okay? Chokes, submissions with arm bars, all types of wild stuff. I mean, look at some of these submission victories that he's pulled off. Calf slicers, anaconda chokes, of course the rear naked chokes, guillotines, modified Peruvian necktie, calf slicers, we talked about that one. I mean, arm bars. I mean, the guy is just, he'll pull off a submission on you any way he wants to. If you make any kind of mistake, you're done for. And let's not forget now, Dustin Poirier was just submitted. Now, it was by Khabib, questionably the GOAT, depending how you feel about that. But I mean, Khabib does get that submission victory. I think that as good as Khabib is, and I know Khabib's a much better wrestler, I don't think you could tell me that Khabib is a better submission artist than Charles Oliveira. And I know they go about things a little differently. I know Khabib kind of just brutalizes you with his pace and his relentlessness, where Oliveira is a little bit different. He's a little bit more tricky and a little bit more skilled as he comes at you. But if Khabib was able to pull that submission off, I don't see any reason why if Charles gets this fight down to the mat, he's not slapping on a submission. I know Dustin was getting a little tired from the pace Khabib was putting on him there, but this is a 5-round fight, and Charles Oliveira has showed to me recently that he's taken major strides in his game. I know what he did to Tony Ferguson is a little bit underappreciated, or maybe not as respected, for the fact that Tony Ferguson seemed to not be the same fighter coming off that loss to Justin Gaethje. But if you remember the takedowns he was throwing and the pace he put on the mat, I respect what he did there, and I think that was a sign of how far his skill set has came. I mean, he's wrestling now. He's not just some tricky submission guy. This guy's a grappler, a real complete grappler. This guy will take you down. He'll inside trip, take you down, slam you down. He'll get on top of you, and good luck when you go down to the mat with him. What he showed in his last fight against Michael Chandler, facing that early adversity where Chandler was cracking him up, and then he comes out in the second round, charges across the octagon, and then ends up getting the finish against Chandler. I think that was amazing. It shows the kind of heart that he has and the kind of desire he has to win, which you cannot underappreciate that, or however you want to say that. You shouldn't whatever. You guys get the gist of what I'm saying here. You can't overappreciate that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's a big deal. When you got money on a guy and you got a guy coming in with these type of accolades and the kind of mindset that he has, I'm a big fan of Charles Oliveira. You guys that have been following the show, you guys know that I've been making money on Charles Oliveira for a while now. We've been rolling with him since the Jared Gordon fight. The Kevin Lee was a solid fight. He was an underdog in that fight, if you guys remember that. That was an official play that we gave out We're all over that underdog odds. We had him against Tony Ferguson. We had him against Michael Chandler. These were all official plays, man, that were given out. So you guys know what's up, and you guys know I'm very high on Charles Oliveira, and at the same time, I'm extremely high on Dustin Poirier. Dustin's as complete as it gets. He has jiu-jitsu. He can grapple. His striking is as good as it gets. In the division, I think that you got to say that DP may have the best striking. I mean, taking guys out like Conor McGregor, taking guys out like Max Holloway. You kidding me? Max Holloway, what he does to guys, and don't forget what happened in that fight. Poirier is the guy that torched Holloway. I mean, those are serious accolades as far as the striking goes for Dustin Poirier. Who else? Taking out McGregor twice in a row, whooping up Dan Hooker on the feet, Max Holloway, Gaethje. How good does the Gaethje victory look now? The Gaethje victory looks amazing. The Anthony Pettis victory, Pettis kind of slowed down then, but DP's the real deal. I love this fight. I've been a little torn on this fight, but I think that you guys know for as long as I've been loyal to Oliveira and as he's came through for me every time, I think you guys know that I'm not going to pick against him here. He's been so good to me. He's put so much money in my pocket, and I'm a big fan of the submission inside of mixed martial arts, and I really appreciate watching a guy like him. If he can go out here and get a submission victory over Dustin Poirier, he's starting to cement his legacy. This is going to be a guy that you guys are going to slowly go from talking about Charles Oliveira as a lightweight champion, a guy that's a really good submission guy, to a guy you're going to be talking about as a complete legend in the game and the greatest MMA submission artist to ever do it. Not even just UFC. I'm talking about Bellator, Pride, ONE FC. Name a guy that's a better submission artist than Charles Oliveira. And let's have that conversation. Let's say even after he gets the victory, the submission victory over Dustin Poirier. That's a crazy conversation. Dustin is such a solid fighter, and again, even though Khabib submitted him, he's not easy to submit. So this is a great fight. I'm rolling with Charles Oliveira. You guys know that's the route I was going to go here. For those of you guys that really know me, you guys know that was going to be my pick. I guess I've been rolling with Dustin for a long time too. Let me point out that I've been rolling with Dustin as far as the official plays go as well. I had Dustin Poirier to take out Conor McGregor, and I had some hefty wagers on Dustin. Got it at great odds too. So let's be clear about that as well. I've made a lot of money on Dustin Poirier throughout the years against Eddie Alvarez, against Gaethje. I had him in a lot of spots too. So it's not like I'm just one-sided here. I'm going to go with Oliveira. I think that Oliveira will get this fight down to the mat at some point in time, and I think he gets the submission. If Dustin gets the victory, I think he keeps this fight on the feet for the majority, or if all of the fight, whereas he might start to break down Oliveira. And we have seen Oliveira kind of fold a little bit, but this was a different fighter. It was way back in the day. Sometimes he would kind of fold a little bit and get bullied up. A lot of those fights he was fighting down at the featherweight division. It was a really bad weight cut for the guy, and I think that had a major effect on him as well. And up here at the lightweight division, he's been thriving. I say he submits Dustin Poirier, and that's going to be my pick. And we take a look at the line. The live line on this fight, we got Charles Oliveira right around a plus 140 underdog, DP right around a minus 160 favorite. And I think that anyone that's siding with DP, that's what you see happening. You see him avoiding going to the ground, working his boxing and striking game, and thriving in the later rounds. That's what Dustin Poirier does. He thrives in those later rounds. And Oliveira, like I said, we've seen him kind of fold up a little bit, but it's a long time ago, and he's shown that he's evolved as a fighter. I got Charles Oliveira to win that fight. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the show here. I'm going to give you guys some parting words as I leave. If you guys didn't realize, this probably wasn't my sharpest episode on the mic. I had a rough weekend. I let you guys know in the beginning, kind of losing my voice here. Was at the Florida Panthers game, was at the Miami Dolphins game, was tailgating, having a great time and all that, drinking, and I'm still a little fuzzy. It's Monday morning, and I got to clean things up. But you guys know the deal, man. When it comes to these picks, nobody does it like me. My picks have been amazing for the year. I've been profiting year to year. I hope you guys will not hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to work with you guys. or if not, even if you're just tuning in for my show here, just to get some insight of what I'm thinking on these fights, I appreciate you guys more than ever. And again, just thank you guys. Without you guys, I would have no type of channel going on. You guys tune in, and I appreciate you guys. And on that note, what can I give you guys as some parting words? If you're drinking alcoholic drinks, don't have drinks with a lot of sugar in them. Those are poison that make you feel like crap the next day. And I'm not saying that's what I did, because I was drinking some nice 12-year scotch, but I drank a good amount of it and mixed in some beer. But don't drink sugary alcoholic drinks, because you will regret it the next day. For those of you guys that are still young and you're figuring things out, and you're trying all these mixed drinks and you think they taste good now, and you think that's the way to go, you're going to regret it the next day, and you'll slowly learn to stay away from those types of drinks and drink some good stuff, and try to just keep it simple. And if it smells fruity and it looks colorful, stay away from it. That's the best one I can give you guys, man. It's been a rough weekend, boys, but you guys know I'm going to be ready to go for this upcoming weekend, and throughout the week we're going to sharpen up, and I'm expecting a humongous UFC 269 fight card. You could bet your boots it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a profitable one. Signing out, Teller.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.